Okay, so today's the last day, and it's all about allocating user rights, which is obviously the most important super user function. So that kind of concludes the course, but obviously you need to know all of the previous stuff in order to know what rights you're allocating in the simplest terms. So we're going to look today at creating a user account. We're going to have a little bit of a look at 2FA if we get time, but I certainly want to make sure that we cover group admin because that's a big time saver. We're going to be looking at the various access parameters and what people can actually see, and the difference between a manager, which is probably you guys, and one of your department reps who would get the IRM, the Information Request Manager portal, so that you can make sure that people get the right view. And obviously it's very important to make sure that an IRM who is supposed to be applicant blind can't see the applicant details. An IRM who shouldn't see SARS can't see private SARS and data protection, personal and private requests if they're not allowed to. Going on to definitions, a user is somebody who's got to log into the system. Now that may not be a person. There's lots of logins that we see on the system, which could be traffic or education department or something, and that's sometimes also associated with the distribution list, and it could be that the people who answer the responses share a username, i.e. an access, a username and a password to the system, and they probably share an email as well, and they probably job share. 2FA is obviously two forms of authentication. That's something that's always been in the system, but some people choose to automate that with texts, but obviously there's a cost to texts and for adding that feature to it. The other words down here you will be familiar with, but I think the one key thing before we leave definitions is it's really important to think about always revoke all rights from somebody and then grant the ones that they're actually allowed to have. So always do it around that way. So revoke is taking a right away, grant is granting a right, and the best way to do it is to start with absolutely no rights, as you always do in the user admin screen, and then to grant the rights, only the rights that they need. Also, going back to that point that I made about some people only allowed to see SARS, you have to define which information requests are SARS. So private information requests would include right to erasure, right to see the requests for information that you hold on me and that kind of stuff. And nowadays we're adding more and more dashboards so that specific people can see specific types of requests as well. There's also a lot of security around which emails can see. Should people be able to see all emails on the system, or just the emails to do with the job, or just the emails that they've been copied on in any case. Reports is a special case because even if somebody has, for example, export to CSV, you can withdraw the right for anybody to export a specific report to CSV. Likewise, if somebody doesn't have the right to have it to CSVs, it doesn't matter if that report has an export to CSV button, they won't see it. So you won't be surprised to hear that if a new person joins your team, you will give them a username and email. The reason you add a mobile in there these days is for 2FA, which is coming. There'd be a shown name, so their username could be X1234, or it could be Sally Brown, and their shown name would certainly be Sally Space Brown. Their username could easily be their email name, for example. You can't change a username once you give them one. It's all stamped into the audit log. So if somebody changes their name and they were Sally Brown and they're now Sally Yellow or something, then which would be unfortunate, let's face it, then you can't change their username. You have to create a new user account and start a new audit trail for that person. You'll also give them a role, and I want to be able to show you role admin later on. A lot of people tick boxes individually for people, but you can actually create roles like department rep with private, department rep with applicant blind, or whatever. And you can allocate those roles to people, but you can manage roles so that you change everybody. Obviously, if somebody really leaves the organisation or leaves your department, there will be a process by which you retire them. You don't delete them, you retire them, because all of their information is stamped into the audit logs if you ever need it for any kind of appeal or review or whatever. And those disabled user accounts are still available. Obviously, you can take off the shown name and you can obfuscate it. So the biggest question we get, and it's where I turn to the demo now, is what do all of these tick boxes mean? And these are the tick boxes for somebody in the FOI team. This particular person is a super user. You should only have a couple of super users in the organization, because obviously a super user can give out the ability for other people to see all sorts of stuff, and you want to retain control of that. So 2 people, even if you've got 100 people using it, 2 people is a good number for a super user, just as long as you can create a new person or retire an employee or make the changes you need if one of the super users is on holiday, maybe 3 tops. This is a lot less tick boxes here. This is a department rep, Angelina Jolie. She gets the request management portal, and on there we can make her information blind. Information blind. We can make her applicant blind, and we can also say she is allowed to see private information requests, and I'll be showing that on the live system. So before I go through the entire list, let me just flip to a demo here. So this is Demo Shire, and if I click on admin, you'll see that user admin is here. And what I can do is I can pick the user that I want to change. So let's start with FOI team, which I left here, which was the first screenshot you just saw. And I'll just pick a couple of bits and pieces here. You'll notice that you can decide which dashboard they get. So you can start with dashboard and the FOI dashboard, and it could be a request dashboard and activity dashboard. Some of you now have more dashboards than this, so you can have a SaaS dashboard. We've just built one for DPIA. We've built one for data assets. There's another one for reviews and appeals. So we're building more and more dashboards so you can give specialist teams specialist views of the system. We're looking at building one for complaints now, and lots of other bits and pieces, data breaches and so on. So somebody could just go to that dashboard, they just see what they need to do their job. They don't need to see other things. If they're a super user, they can dig into it, but if you wish to restrict their view, you can do so. Now you'll notice on the left hand side here, you've got the login name, which could be anything. It could be, some people use PIN numbers, some people use email names. The team name is a good thing to do, because remember, this thing is not changeable. And then you've got the display name. So what we're saying is somebody at Demo Shire who works in this FOI team, the audit log will have stuff done by FOI team. So you won't know if Bill or John made that mistake, that spelling error that caused so much confusion last year, but at least you'll know it was somebody in the FOI team. I personally favour individuals, so that you can train an individual that's made a mistake or improve the behaviour of individuals, or certainly in the commercial world, pick up fraud. You can also give individuals the right whether or not they can see specific types of requests, like private requests. So, but I know that in practice you have to allocate things to groups to run your business. There's anything called a role here, and the idea is that the two that are important for FOI are the department rep and the administration. Now you may call them different things, and you may not even have these roles on here, and the reason is there is another admin which we're going to have a look at, which defines which roles go into this admin screen here. This defines which portal you look at when you first go. So request management portal, there's a default, and you just take that, and you see, if I just go pick it up, this portal here in the case of Demo Shire. So this is what Angelina Jolie would see when she sees this portal. But of course, this guy here, if this person here, FOI team, actually that's a bad example, request management, dashboard, this person here would get, let's say, the request dashboard and default screen. So that person there would see this screen here. I think that's the request management dashboard. The activity dashboard obviously would show the activities. But this is what they would see. This screen here is what they would see. You can create roles which you can then allocate to a bunch of people to save time. And I'm going to show you that in a moment. I'm just going to quickly zip through the tick boxes here that are important, and I've put them on a slide. Most of them are self-explanatory. However, employee admin, the most important thing here is putting a bracket on the end, is the super user account is the deity of the system. And you need to restrict the number of people on that because they could give out rights which may be inappropriate. So it needs to be somebody that knows how the system works and really knows the business inside out as well. System admin, that person can't allocate usernames and passwords, and well, nobody can allocate passwords, they're reset for people, but they can't allocate accounts or give out rights. But what they can do is they can change profiling data, document templates, the labels on fields, drop downs and drop downs admin, and various other bits and pieces, including, for example, creating roles. Delete items. Again, a lot of these things are exactly what you'd expect them to be. I would keep this switched off and mark items for deletion, and then whether it's for retention reasons, which we can automate for you, or whether it's because you put in a duplicate, and then have a day when you switch it on. As a super user, you're able to do that. Then delete the items you want to delete. The reason we say keep it switched off is it does exactly what it says, and if you delete a person, then their job goes, and so on and so forth. The data manager is for moving jobs and people around between places. CSV export is the idea this person can export a CSV from the system. Notes admin, that allows you to change public and private, and that may not seem very important, but it certainly is if you use our public disclosure log, because there are some notes that you'll want to keep within the organization, and there are many notes that will save you time and effort to be able to share with the public, because they'll find the answer on the public disclosure log and not have to put in a request. View reports is pretty easy. That literally removes the reports page from those people who aren't allowed to see reports, and the rest pretty much say what they do, but I'd like to just focus on can view information, private information requests, and also applicant blind. Let's see how that works with a demo. So if I go back to my demo system, I'm going to go back onto reports in a moment. If I go back onto my demo thing here and I pick Angelina Jolie, who's this person that we've got as an example, if what's she got at the moment? So at the moment she's not applicant blind and she can view private information requests. If I go to her portal here, I think I'm logged in as Angelina Jolie, and I look at one of her, so she's got 3 jobs on there. If I click and say that she can see private information requests and hit save, get back to her portal there and refresh that, then when she logs into that, if there is an extra, what am I on here? If there was a SAR, she would be able to see it. I do not believe that is refreshing, actually, for some whatever reason. It's either that or it's very, very fast. If we look at this job here, presently she can see that the applicant is a bloke called John Smith, who's asked about CCTV footage. Oh, that is a SAR, so she can see SARs. Now, if I remove, oh, that's not right at all. It's this one here, isn't it? So if I make it applicant blind here and save, if I now also remove view information requests, I remove the wrong box and save. If I refresh this, you can see that SAR has now gone. So if I now go and look at this here, you don't have rights to see it. If I look at this one though, which is an FOI question, I can't see who put that request in. So she's applicant blind. If I now say she's not applicant blind and she can view private information requests, actually let's just remove that for now. Let's just say she's not applicant blind. Then on refreshing this, if she brought it up again, she can actually see, if I just get rid of that there, I hit save, save that, go back to that same one. She can now see that it comes in from John Smith. She can see his email, she can see his details and so on. So if she clicks on John Smith, she'll actually go off to his details, which she would not otherwise be able to do. Likewise here, she can't see this SAR at the moment, but if I say she can view private requests, then by golly, there we go, then she can see the SAR and respond to it. So moving on to reports, regardless of whether somebody has the reports page or not, you can remove from people the right to see reports, and it's very important to do this. So if you've got a reports page for the reports for any particular report, like open requests, you could say your media team can see a report called open requests media interest, but they can't see all open requests, and they certainly can't see all requests with SARs in them. So what you can do is you can pre-filter requests by putting a filter in here and say not have a filter that's not SARs. You can then basically say only the medium team can see it, or only this team, or only that team can see it. Now notice that we've got a thing called dept rep here. You may not have that in your system, and the reason for that is that I made it up. And the way I've made it up is I've gone into the admin menu, drop down as admin, and there is a thing in here called employee group admin. So you can create a thing called department rep, and within department rep, so I've just named it, I can go and have a look at the group permissions. So when they load their system, they go to the request management portal. So this would be the IRM portal. So they don't get this portal here. They don't get this portal. They get the one that you've been looking at for Angelina Jolie. And whipping back over here again, we have said that every time they go to it, they get this box ticked and that box ticked. So it could be that I say all of my department reps, for example, will be applicant blind. And I can save that so that every new person that joins that's going to be a department rep will always be applicant blind. Or I might say every department rep may not see, which would be quite a sensible thing to do, private information requests, and I'm going to make them applicant blind by standard. And then one or two people, I will actually go into their personal employee admin and untick those boxes. So this is a cookie cutter. When you create the user, they get no rights to see private information requests and they're applicant blind. But if you go into their actual SMACTUAL employee admin, then that person will be able to see the things that you give them. You'll be able to tick the boxes and change them. So that way you can have all your IRMs applicant blind and unable to see private SAR type requests, but you can say Billy and Sally and whoever can. So on a report, you can decide that somebody can't see the reports page at all, or you can say they can see the reports page, but you can withdraw from the right to see certain reports. You can also, very importantly, stop people exporting CSVs. Allowing people to export CSVs from the system is something that should be rationed, because every time somebody exports a CSV, clearly it creates another data asset that you've got to check. And most people would say a local authority with 600 things to do, from traffic to fire to parks to whatever, will probably have maybe, I don't know, 300 known systems, whether it's an access database or a system like Accelerate, and then they'll probably have a black or grey IT area of maybe 8,000 operationally used shared spreadsheets lying around the place. I mean, it's amazing just how many of these things are tracked. So that's what we covered during the course. Well done if you stuck it all the way through. And thank you very much indeed for your time.